Hello, gamers. Matt Lemke with Sean Patrick Fannon from... You actually went with Evil Beagle Publishing, right?
Evil Beagle Games.
Games. It went from publishing to games.
Right.
Is what it did. And we're at Con on the Cob, the last day of the con. Pretty much the last thing we're doing is this interview.
Been long, but really fun 4 days.
It is a great 4 days in freakery.
Well, geekery and freakery.
Yeah, lots of geekery. There's a great bit of local geeks here. But anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about what Sean Patrick Fannon has been up to for the last year. He's had...
some big changes.
There's been some big changes this year. And, I mean, the first one that comes to my mind is you left Drive-Thru RPG.
Yeah, a lot of people have been kind of curious about that. You have to understand, these are some of my best friends in the world. I love them dearly, and they're very supportive of what I'm up to. I've been fulfilling the marketing and social marketing and public relations role for them, and communications and things like that. Doing a lot of business development with them as well. But one of the things I've been doing is selling people on the idea that anyone can publish, anyone can put product out there, anyone can reach an audience these days and share their content. So there's this constant underground challenge, because I've been in the industry since '88 myself, so people are like, well, why aren't you doing that? And then Gen Con this year just brought forth so many opportunities and so many interesting ideas that after a couple of days to kind of think about it, Steve Wick and I talked. Steve's the main managing partner and owner of the company. And on the one hand, there's a lot of new things that need to be done in the role that I was fulfilling. But on the other hand, he had been reading a lot of my work. And he'd gotten his hands on the latest version of Shine to Our Player Guide that Reality Blurs put out. And quite frankly, it was an amazing compliment. He said, Sean, this is brilliance. You need to be writing. You need to be designing and getting product out there. I want to help you take that step, and you can make this work, and you know you have our full support. So with that, and the other relationships, I'm sure we'll talk about. I have relationships with multiple other publishers that I've developed.
Yeah, hundreds.
But some very specific ones that I have things working with and doing right now. All those combined with some ideas I had, I took the jump. I took the jump a little bit after, and it's been a wild ride.
I'm sure it has. What was your, if you're allowed to say, within 24 hours of actually locking in the name, you had already had a planned, I guess commission is the best way to look at it. It's not really a commission because this, if I understand correctly, it was like an advisory type of thing.
No, it's turned more into a commission thing. It's interesting. It's the Your Savage Expert thing I've got going on. The two things that are on the evilbeaglegames.com site are Your Savage Expert and what's currently called Omniverse, but I think we may be changing the name to something else like Omnicosm. We're kind of talking about giving it a new face. That project, which you and I've talked about before, it's still going forward. We kind of took a few steps back and we're revising some things because of different relationships and stuff. So that's still happening. The big, any setting, any system, have lots of fun. The Your Savage Expert was an inspiration I had. Just boom, just came out of nowhere because I felt like if I basically set something up but then waited until I had something to sell, it would just kind of hang in the twilight zone. I wanted to have something right out the gate, so I thought about it, and it was like people were always asking me to help them, make their characters better. People were always giving me advice about Savage Worlds. I really immersed myself in this game system, became one of the consulting and helping guys to improve it and be involved in, and I've added a lot of stuff to it. And it's been an incredible honor and a pleasure to work as closely with Shane Hensley and Clint Black and those guys as I have. We're all very, very dear friends. So just threw this thing out there, and it was like nobody's really done this before. Here you can buy a certificate and get me to either build a character for you or optimize your character idea. There's Your Savage Character, Your Savage Encounter, which is I want a cool battle scene with certain types of guys and with some cool challenges. Your Savage Adventure, which is a series of encounters, could be run at a con or something. Your Savage Campaign, and then Your Savage Setting, which is more of a gateway to work with actual publishers or would-be publishers, and it sets me up to consult with them to help build a setting.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'm starting to understand. It's kind of like the St. Louis Arch to the West, but it's for Savage Worlds.
Yeah, and the point is they can either have me look at their stuff and advise and optimize it, or they can just give me parameters and have me build. And what's interesting is that every single person that has signed on with this, and I've actually been surprised at the response, every single one, though, has basically said, here's my parameters, please build it for me. And in fact, I had to raise my prices at the end of September.
Because you're too busy.
Yeah, I was too busy. I was getting too, and everyone was saying I was underselling myself. People were voluntarily overpaying me because they felt what I was giving them was worth more.
It seems like there's a very fine line. It's like you get to a point where it's like, okay, you're underselling, and then there's like no real middle ground, and then it's like you don't really skip that middle ground. It's a leap.
Yeah.
You get to this point where it's like, okay, for example, a cook makes $10 an hour,
yeah.
$10 an hour, $10 an hour. And then they get a sous position or a chef position, and it jumps to like $18 an hour. It's that type of thing, and it's all about demand and skill.
And I've been pleasantly surprised and honored at the support, and haven't even really been pushing it that hard. I actually had to stop kind of really pushing it because I had to catch up.
Well, you already had a big name. There was no doubt in my mind you were going to succeed. I mean, you've been around for a long, long time, and you've got a lot of contacts because you worked with Gamma, and prior to that, you got all your writing contacts. You wrote your own world. Actually, you used your own rules. Yeah.
And, all that kind of stuff.
Well, I'm thinking of your baby.
Shintar.
Yep.
Yeah, and well, I mean, it's funny too because I've recently started working on my superhero setting, which I've also had sort of in my hip pocket for a long time, and that's something that's going to come out through Evil Beagle. And been talking a lot to the Spectrum Games people. Some of your audience may know that I've been tinkering a lot with Capes, Cowls, and Villains Foul, and having a lot of fun tinkering with that core system. But what I'm thinking is that ultimately Modern Gods, which is the super setting that I'm working on, and maybe one of the linchpin parts of the Omnicosm as well, will probably be a multi-system released product. Stats and rules for different settings. So you can buy the CC and VF version, or possibly the Bash version, or possibly the Icons version. And just go ahead and start getting into that realm because I've noticed that settings with multiple system support is a very smart way to go. You just open it up to multiple venues, and I've been going in that direction. But as you mentioned this, the contacts, and my network is a large part of why I felt safer doing it this time. I've actually done the freelance thing multiple times over the last couple of decades. And it's a dangerous and difficult path unless you figure out how to do it right.
I know.
It really is. But this time around, with all the contacts and with the position and as a consultant, and being able to offer my services as a consultant, I have people actually seeking me out now, and that's really cool. I consulted basically with, and I'm still consulting with the Savage Mojo guys with this new Dungeon Lands thing they've got going, and there's some other stuff.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and I actually helped in that 24-hour design thing, and was very honored to get some credit for that, but as well, just helping them with the social marketing and the promotions and getting the word out and that kind of stuff. So both, I like the idea that I get to work as a creative and as a communicator because those are both strong suits of mine. It's also a large part of my role now with FASA, the new FASA Games. I'm involved with them very, very deeply, and I'm going to be involved both creatively and as we move forward a lot more with communications and marketing as well. So both of those roles are things I can bring to a team and enhance that team, either in a consultant role or as a member of the team. And there's just different ways that comes together. Still working with Reality Blurs. Sean Preston's been really wrapped up with and involved with, and understandably so, with Tremulous. It's a huge success for him from the Kickstarter. But Shintar's still with them. We're still building up the product line and getting ready to launch that. No, I don't know when. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, I've got the beta. I haven't really got to read it yet, but I've got the beta.
And then there's another team that doesn't even have a name yet. And I really can't get into it, but just to say that, there's another team that I'm also going to be a part of and doing consulting with. So there's a lot of things that are lining up and more in the wings. I've got some project ideas, working on and talking with some people. So mostly the barrier for me now is just the focus and getting work done, getting words written, getting product completed, and knocking it out the door.
Yep, that is a little difficult to juggle, especially when you're doing multiple things.
It's funny, I just wrote a blog post about this recently. It's people talk about the concept of too many irons in the fire or juggling too many plates. And I'm like, no, this would be like having Nightcrawler's teleporting power and trying to fly multiple planes at once. And you're trying to keep them all on target, keep them all in the air, and if you let one of them fall, it's a real disaster.
That's a good analogy, actually.
Yeah, it's a huge disaster if one of these things does not land and land safely. So it can be nerve-wracking, but I brought it on myself because it's what I love. So it's exciting stuff.
So you're okay. You'd mentioned that you character profile or round out.
Mm-hmm.
does that plug into your everyday type of work? Like somebody can say, "Hey, I want you to do this," or is that just something that like you kind of do? Well, is that part of your everyday?
I have to schedule it. Yes, it becomes as soon as someone contracts me to do something for them. They're a client, and I'm a provider of a service, and I have to work that into the schedule.
I can't imagine somebody would contact you for a character. That's just nuts.
And yet I've done a couple of them already. Yeah, most of them are getting encounters and adventures.
How long? Oh, okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, and for example, the adventure that Mike McNeil here, also known as Evil Mike of the Savage crew, who's one of the main, basically a professional demo guy for Pinnacle and has been for him and Chaos Steve. But he asked me to write an adventure for him. And the big surprise for the players at the end of it was to find out that I'm the one that actually wrote it, because it's not in the style people are used to from me. It was very horror. You know, it was Reality Blur's Agents of Oblivion setting with a Cthulhian aspect to it, mixed in with the super spy stuff. And it was a thrill to write. It was a lot of fun. And I got to watch the group that played, you know, and how it ended for them. And they had such a blast. They loved the characters, which I built for them. And it was fun. It was fun.
Okay, that makes a lot more. I could see how easily somebody from a company would say, "Hey, would you round out these characters for this adventure?" I was looking at it more like.
No, I've had individuals say, "I would like for you to build a character for me."
Roughly, how long does that take? Obviously, it's different from system to system. I'm talking about like the background.
I only do Savage Worlds at this point. So it's I'm your Savage expert. Is the whole point. And part of the thing is, and this is I bring on myself, is I will research. I want it to have verisimilitude. So if they give me something that has a cultural touchstone or a historical touchstone of some kind, or something that has something, you know, that needs to have a scientific veracity to it, I will research. What I would slough off of perhaps on my own, I won't do for someone who's paying me, even if it's only $3.
I know that feeling.
So I go all out with it. So with the research, sometimes it can take a couple of 3 hours, but the character building itself is so second nature to me.
Yeah, once you've done enough certain types of characters.
I know how to optimize with the system pretty well. So that's why I'm keeping the character service at $3, because it's something I can knock out pretty quickly. Not a problem. What's been the real challenge for me have been the adventures, because I have a guy who's contracted me basically. He's contracted 2 Your Savage campaigns because he wanted one mega long one. Because my Savage campaign one, usually it's, you know, here's a series of adventures and situations and encounters, and you know, but I keep it within like 3 or 4. But he wanted to, and it's Firefly based one, so it's part 1 and part 2, and he paid for it twice, so you could get a full thing. And I've spent a long time on the Savage, or not the Savage, but the Firefly Serenity wiki, just researching everything I can about the verse to again give it that verisimilitude. So it's fun. It's the kind of stuff I do for fun anyway, and I've got people who are willing to pay me a little bit for it to give them a good experience. And it's new. No one's ever done it. It's a completely new kind of idea, and so I'm trotting across virgin ground, and I'm kind of figuring it out as I go.
That's true. It is new, and nobody else has really done it that I know of.
Well, people write adventures and then sell them, right? That's nothing.
And
but the idea of a customized adventure, someone writing you a specific adventure for you.
Probably tons of professionals that'd be like, I don't have time to make my adventure, and they'll be like, hey, can you do this for me?
That's the thing that has surprised me, is that I'm starting to get more and more people kind of nosing their way towards me for that. But it's guys who are running cons. They want a con game, but they don't really have time to set it up themselves.
Bingo. That's the group I'm talking about. I meant when I said professionals, I wasn't thinking necessarily industry professionals. I was thinking more like a doctor that loves to role play.
Right, but he doesn't have time to write up adventures. He's wanting to run them. But yeah, exactly.
And he wants to do it at cons or whatever. Yeah, I could see that.
That's what I'm starting to see more and more. People ask me to do that kind of thing for them.
So where do you see yourself going with it? I mean, or I know not necessarily where do you see, because that's prophecy. But where would you like it to go?
Honestly, I just see it as a supplemental thing. It's not a primary focus, and there may come a point where I either have got to find some other people to partner with and have them do it in addition to me, so that I'm not the only one doing it. And that's kind of an idea I have, is to start not really subcontracting, but so much as bringing on other people who I know I can trust to do quality work, and let them get the benefit from that, but keep the service available, something that keeps Evil Beagle out in front of people. While I start working on the bigger projects that I really got in mind, this Omnicosm thing is something I really still very much want to push forward with a great deal of effort, not just for role playing in the traditional sense, but that whole interconnectivity thing that I've been talking about, where people can have an online presence that's connected to a tabletop presence, which is connected to being able to go and play convention games, and it's all the same character in a shared multiverse kind of thing. That's something it's near and dear to my heart, and I really want to kind of push forward with that. Other than that, though, right now I'm enjoying creating a lot more than I was, and I enjoy the feedback. Right, so it's its own reward when I know that someone's pleased with the work, and at the same time, completely honestly,
It does feel good.
Well, completely honestly, I'm learning a lot too. I'm actually honing my craft as a creator. I'm honing my craft as an adventure writer. Because I'm realizing as I write these things for these people with a specific idea in mind, and I want to engage that individual need and what the group might really want, it puts me it's really stretching me creatively to do an Agents of Oblivion adventure that has a Lovecraftian style monster at the end of it, which is not something I would do for my own game because it's not the style I tend to run. It really pushed me, and it makes me feel more comfortable about taking on other projects that aren't necessarily in my wheelhouse. So it has its own benefits there. It's interesting. It's not going to make me crap tons of money itself, but it is also basically paid training.
Yeah, it's paid training, and it doesn't hurt to make your hobby pay for itself.
No, and that's exactly true.
And that's pretty much. I mean, it's not an industry you really get rich with, unless you're extraordinarily good.
The trick, I think, is, and I think it's for a lot of us, is to look at ways to leverage the IP that we create, the intellectual property, the creative stuff, into multiple venues, as well as to leverage the concept of interactivity and to essentially exploit the opportunities of social networking, exploit the tools that are out there, the concept of the phone app, the concept of Facebook games, the concept of all these things, finding ways to interconnect all that stuff, and using the techniques that we know work to make engaging gameplay where you have an investment personally into a character and into a story, and finding ways to leverage those traits and talents that we've all picked up doing this into something that's more than just the sit at the table and roll the dice. That's the kind of Holy Grail that a lot of us who've been at this for a long time are still seeking.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, it's like the next step. It seems that way.
Yeah.
Next, we'll be playing on Mars and on Earth.
Look at the next wave of virtual tabletop software that's really starting. I mean, there's the Tabletop Forge, and then D20, or is it Roll20, and there's a few others out there.
Roll20. Well, they've even got stuff for miniature games now.
Yeah,
you can play 40K without even being in the same state.
Exactly.
It's called Vassal, I think.
Right, exactly. With the advent of these kinds of things, with Google Hangouts and stuff
Google
like
Hangouts,
that, it's really expanding the opportunities, and there's just so many ways that the media is transforming and changing. And it's funny because here at the show, Shane Hensley, Michael Mirth, Jamie Chambers, myself, and a couple others were talking about the gaming never really is dying, as much as people like to try to say, this is the death knell of gaming, blah, blah, blah. That's not a rapidly expanding proposition either. It's still a niche marketplace. However, where our continued potential for possible growth is, that was kind of redundant, potential. But anyway, I'm tired, it's Sunday, is in the fact that media keeps changing. And forms of media, ways that media can be used and interconnected, and all these things are changing. And so we don't even know what's possible later this year or next year or in a couple of years.
You don't know what the next breakthrough is going to be.
But
could be watch games.
Our skills, our natures, our talents are, I think, uniquely oriented towards being able to flexibly take what we already do and plug it into these potential new opportunities.
Yeah, because every one of those is a different market, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like Gut Busting Games Gaines. I'm tired too. Games. Lisa Stinson is talking about a game next year where there's actually the same rule set is going to be the same for all 3 games, but it's going to be like 3 different genres. One's going to be like pets, horrible pets, and then the other one's going to be like she said gaming culture, and I said expand that out to geek culture, because then you get a whole lot more in that market.
Right.
And she's like, oh yeah, and I can't remember the third one. I can say, well, it was obviously trailer park stuff. So
yeah, well, I mean, they found a niche
they found a good niche.
It's very entertaining and fun for them, and that's really all it is. I mean, none of us that I know of really does this more for financial security or anything like that. Than the main reason we do it is the love. The love of what we do, the love of the stuff that's in us, and we want to put it out there, and we enjoy connecting with people and sharing it with people. Every time I sit down and run a Shintar campaign or a Shintar game with new people at a con, it's a thrill, because I feel like I'm bringing them something new and exciting, and I know when they always walk away with it, this excitement and this wonder and an interest in that world that I've created. And now that there's so many of them, there's a problem here at this show, because I have this thing where if you play in my games at a con or anywhere else, I give you experience points, you keep the character, and you can keep bringing them back to play. Well, I'd run through a cycle of stories over the last couple of years, and I decided to sort of reset with the release of the Player's Guide. So the new pre-gens, instead of being in the 50 and 60 point range, they're in 25 point range. And I had a couple of games where people were showing up with characters that were 50, 60, 70 experience points. They were way too powerful for a 25-point game. Right. But there were so many of them that's what they were. But they were cool. They were like, you know what? I just want to play. I'm happy to get a new character at this point level. And but the fact that there was that many of them now who have characters and come back because they want to return to my world, no amount of money in the world can beat the simple sense of pride and an emotional satisfaction of, I have crafted something that people want to live in repeatedly. That's as long as I can make my way day to day and no one suffers for because I'm not paying whatever. If I can keep the bills paid and maintain a basic happiness, it's well worth it. It beats working for a living.
It's work.
Well, no, it is. It is.
It is. But when you sit down to write for 4 hours every day, it's work.
It beats going into an office or a facility,
construction yard
that you don't want to be at, dealing with people you don't want to deal with, and all you're doing is waiting to just get your job done and go home. And I respect every human being that does that. All right, it's the way things are, and it's that churn, and I respect it. I've done it, all right? I've lived it many, many, many times. So I know how lucky I am. I know how fortunate I am. And I really couldn't do what I do if it weren't for the support of my loved ones, the willingness for them to believe in me and say, we believe you can do this. True. And, together, collectively, we share security and we share our household so that you can do this. I'm an incredibly fortunate man. And I intend to repay the kindness of all who have supported me by busting my butt and creating great stuff. So that's my motivation, is to pay back all the support with even better stuff.
That's a good thing. It's a good thing. Well, what would you add? What do you want to share that we might not have touched upon? Well, because Evil Beagle is definitely news, and prior to that, there wasn't really too much different from Con on the Cob that I'm aware of. I mean, you've always had your hands in a lot of different pots.
That's true. Becoming self-published is, and that being my primary focus, is a huge thing. And actually becoming a publisher, something I kind of put off for a long time. I just did not.
I didn't even know that was really a dream. I mean, I guess I kind of did with Silvermeat Productions.
Yeah, but and Silvermeat's still going. Silvermeat Studios still exists. The people who originally came up with it. It belongs to them. I'm still consulting with them, and we probably will work together on some things. But they have their own timetable, and it's mixed with other priorities they have. I did Evil Beagle so that I had sole proprietorship, and I could be flexible and could move quickly on things that I wanted to do, and that's worked out best. And And that, like I said, it's a challenge. I didn't really have a dream of being my own publisher is the funny thing. But now that I'm doing it, I can see a lot of potential of what I can do and create. And it's been exciting, and I just want to thank everyone for this sense of support that I have, this waiting for, well, okay, what is he going to do next? And at the same time, it's not intimidating, but there's a nervousness to the idea of, like, I really got to make sure I swing for the fence and that I'm delivering really wonderful stuff.
That's right.
But I like that challenge, right? I like knowing that, at 46, I still have new ground to break. And I still have new roads to travel down and new ways to entertain and make people happy.
As a writer, those roads never end.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're right.
Until your brain goes.
Which you damn near did last night.
I heard that. Something about going to bed at 5 a.m.
Oh, my God, we are stupid, stupid people. But anyway, yeah.
And he's still here, so that says something.
Con on the Cob's a great show. There you go. If you ever get a chance to come to Con on the Cob, you should absolutely do it. It's one of the most fun, gaming-heavy conventions ever. But he's got all these other things happening. Wonderful parties, performances. They had the Witch's Ball last night, which I was part of a magic trick. Musical
Art
performances,
show,
art
lots
show.
of artists, sculpting, painting.
It's a regional show, but it's one of the most charming and fun and crazy ones going.
It's growing fast.
And it's growing really fast, yeah.
A couple of years, it'll be same size as Origins.
I don't know. I don't know if it'll... if Andy's smart, he won't let it grow that fast.
He doesn't want it to get much bigger than this.
Yes. I respect the big cons. Of course, I worked for Origins. I helped run the show. I respect these guys 100%, but I have so much more fun
At the small shows?
at the small shows. At a show like Con on the Cob, at a show like Play on Con down in Birmingham, Mace, North Carolina.
Well, AntCon was really tiny.
And AntCon was a blast. I wish I didn't live so far away because it's going to be harder and harder. Now that I'm not working for Drive-Thru, it's a little harder for me to make as many shows.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would
you
make
know,
that a little bit of a difference.
Not so much of a corporate thing anymore. So it comes down to I can make shows if I'm getting help with certain things, and otherwise I'm just not going to be able to do it. Like HoosierCon, apparently they really want me, which is a little show that they're doing. Well, actually, it could potentially be a big show in Indianapolis. But there are people who are running it are like, look, I got a four-bedroom house, and we want you to just come and stay with us, and we're going to take care of you. And I'm like, well, you know what? Heck with it. That'll be fun. So
that'll work.
Yeah, a chance to go see people and do some gaming, introduce Savage Worlds to some new people. So, but yeah, once again, if you get a chance to go to Con on the Cob, you absolutely should go.
Even if you're just passing through.
Yep.
One day is worth it.
Absolutely.
And, well, where can they find you, Sean, besides Silvermeat? Besides Evil Beagle?
At evilbeaglegames.com is the website. The only Sean Patrick Fannon on Facebook, so easy to find there. So, I'd love to friend everybody there. On G+, easy to find there as well. That's find me on Facebook or G+, or contact me on evilbeaglegames.com. You can actually email me at evilbeaglegames@gmail.com. And, yeah, that's it.
And that brings this to a close, and probably, quite possibly, the end of Con on the Cob 2012.
Pretty much.
See you next week. You may actually get to see this before next week, but I said see you next week. I meant next year. Oh, my gosh, I need a hammer.
See you next year, brother.
Good night.
Night.
Have a good day. You're going to make Origins, right? Or you don't know yet?